So next up, we have Selene Jin. So Selene's talk is called Designing Desirable Experiences. Give Selene a warm welcome.
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Selene Jin, and I'm the director of user experience at Blockstream. Super excited to be here today. This is actually my second time doing a talk in VR. I'm even more excited today than last time, because last time I was doing it in Outspace VR, which was an app on Oculus Quest that's built by a company. And today I believe this was built by a decentralized platform. So although we may experience some technical issues when I initially try to speak, but I'm still very excited, because I think the key of this is it's being decentralized, and it fits our Bitcoiners philosophy. And while right now there's a lot of noise of virtual world being a central point is very bad for security and privacy, I'm glad there's something that we can develop and see the brighter future. So let me just get started. Now, we all want to make compelling UX of Bitcoin products and get more people to Bitcoin. However, without realizing, we often make missteps. Today, I'm going to talk about the two classic mistakes we all made and how can we improve it. Let me change the slides. Okay. So imagine that you are thinking about the UX of your new product. You are thinking about what your users need. What are the first few things that come to your mind? Is it going to be easy to use or feature-packed? Have you ever feel that so many Bitcoin products today pride themselves of feature-packed or most advanced, that these are just becoming buzzwords? But people outside the space, aka the so-called normies, show very little to no interest. These are usually the times that Bitcoiners say that, it's because normies don't understand money, or normies don't think of long terms, or they aren't capable of thinking outside the box. But is that really the cause of people unaware or not coming to Bitcoin? Years in the field of UX, a statement that I overheard is, I will use certain features, and so our users will need that certain feature. Even many top-notch business leaders and engineers made decisions on product based on this assumption. This happens more frequently in the realm of Bitcoin, where the technology is immature and the niche is still relatively small. With less data available, people make more assumptions. Let me tell you a story. In 1990, Elizabeth Newton, a PhD at Stanford, conducted a simple experiment. She assigned people to one of two roles, tappers or listeners. Tappers received a list of 25 well-known songs, such as Happy Birthday to You. Each tapper was asked to pick a song and tap out the rhythm to a listener by knocking on a table. The listener group's job was to guess the song based on the rhythm being tapped. Before the listeners made a guess, Newton asked the tappers to predict the odds that the listeners would guess it correctly. They predicted that the odds was 50%, so half of it. Then they did the experiment. On 120 songs, listeners guessed only 2.5% right, which is like only 3 songs out of 120. Think about it. Now, if you go ahead and try it for yourself, let's say tap out Happy Birthday to You. What do you find? Well, for me, I find it's extremely difficult to avoid hearing the tone in my head. And unconsciously, that makes us overestimate that the listeners will guess the sound, while in reality, when they can't hear that tone, it is extremely difficult to guess. Human nature is egocentric. So often we fall into the self-esteem trap and overestimate other people's attention, understanding, or interest of us. And that leads us to make biased decisions on the UX of our products. Now, imagine a nice Friday evening. You are sitting with a group of friends, enjoying food, chatting, and then, like always, you started talking about Bitcoin. One guy finally decided to get a wallet and give it a try. At the dinner table, he downloaded the Bitcoin wallet you recommended. Upon opening the app, he was blocked by the 24 words recovery phrase. He couldn't experiment with it even just for a couple of dollars unless he write them down. So what he did? He quickly grabbed the restaurant receipt on the table, flipped it back, and write down those words. Then he put it into the pocket. After a year, you met up again in another party, and Bitcoin is going to the moon. And you ask that friend how he's doing with those coins from back then. Well, unfortunately, I lost them, he said. I forgot about it in the pocket when I washed my pants. Some Bitcoiners have very good intention when we are building a product such as a Bitcoin wallet. We want to protect the user as much as possible. We are so eager to educate user about Bitcoin and security in every possible scenario. But if we only see from our own perspective and push it onto others, the good intentions can go bad and causing user taking shortcuts to escape the hassle, which lowers the security, or they just quit it altogether. The complexity of Bitcoin technology has created a lot of unique challenges that makes it even harder for people to onboard. But good news is, it is not impossible if we learn to craft the user experience from the perspective of users. What are some common scenarios where people will be more likely or less likely to onboard and try out something new? So first I can think about is when the cost of trying something for the first time is very low, of course, people will be more likely to try it. For example, you said this piece of chocolate is really delicious, and people might just buy a piece and try it out because it won't cost much and it's not a tough decision, and it's very likely they will hold back. However, on contrary, in order to use Bitcoin, now people have to have a basic understanding of wallet, self-custody, and all other concepts and behaviors that need to be learned. The experience is negative at the beginning. A key approach we have is need to make the onboarding as smooth as possible, just to let people experiment a bit. We need to craft the UX in a way that highlights the possibilities that people are unable to achieve before without Bitcoin, rather than simply, make it a very generic, easier alternative. The second thing I can think about when user easy to onboard is when a product is in line with users' past perceptions and experience, that they don't need to change the perception to understand it. So unfortunately, this is again not the case for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is hard. I still remember, the memory is fresh, that the terminologies are inconsistent and sometimes misleading. How Bitcoin works is revolutionize people's understanding of money, so it is absolutely not so familiar to people. Now we can think about the history that at the beginning when petrol car was invented, what it was called. Well, it was called horseless carriage, because carriage is the concept that's already known to the users. If we want to improve the UX of Bitcoin products, we need to bind them to the exist concepts that are already well known to people. Well, this is the time some Bitcoiners may argue that it is inaccurate and misleading to do so. But if we keep pushing complex terms, it will only back people off. We can just easily onboard them by giving them some candy, and actually that makes people more willing to learn and also more efficient to learn new things. The second mistakes we often made is that when we are designing the UX of product, we only consider that single point of interaction. So a research in 2016 revealed that out of 990 participants in an online survey, almost 23% indicated that they had lost Bitcoins. And of those who had, 43% indicate the loss had been their own fault. Now, think back on the story that your friend lost Bitcoins because they lost their backup phrase on a restaurant receipt. How we live our daily life can be quoted like this. We look at a small sheet of glass on a sunny day. We juggle our phones one-handed. We are distracted or in a rush. We are quite literally, temporarily vision, motor, hearing, and cognitively impaired on a daily basis. Often when people think of UX only as a single point of interaction between a user and a single device. But in reality, we are in such complex and fast-paced environment that our attention is constantly shifting. To design UX to be mobile friendly also means to design it that requires least effort and focus to think. Now, most interaction of Bitcoin products nowadays are still limited to mobile devices and desktop or laptop computers. But in the near future, we can see that we are going to be soon entering an era of cross-device UX and non-screen UI. Design UX in the context of what environment that user is in is extremely important, not only for being intuitive, but also for better protecting users' privacy and security. Another thing is how people learn about Bitcoin is also part of their experience and cannot be overlooked. So if a person often hears something like, someone got scammed by some crypto coins, would he or she has the same patience to learn more about the Bitcoin compared to another person who always had positive impressions? If you want to build a Bitcoin product for everyone, are you building it for people who earns $10 a day or people who has an extremely high net worth? Are you building it for people in the States or someone in Southeast Asia? Are you building it for millennials who had been exposed to computers since young ages or an elderly? When we say the word everyone, we have to consider people's cultural difference, background difference. That's all going to contribute their different preferences and learnability. I know, talking about all these points, thinking in the perspective of user is hard. It's counterintuitive of our egocentric nature. But we should all remember to always put the people in the center of any design decisions we made. I'm optimistic if we do that, we will be well on the road to building a desirable Bitcoin UX. Thank you.